back in the garage, back in the garage, back in the garage today, back in the garage today. What's up guys, back in the garage today to do some work to my 2017 KTM 250 XCF because something's a little messed up on it and we gotta fix it. So we're gonna be doing a little bit of work tonight, some work tomorrow, and I'm hoping to finish it up tomorrow because tomorrow is Sunday and I have a race the following Sunday that I'm trying to get the bike ready for. But we'll see how that goes, but we at least need to finish up the first step. So let me explain what's wrong with the bike. So a few weeks, month or so ago, as I was changing the oil on the bike, I went to put, so it's got a oil filter cover over it where there's two, I think they're 8mm screws that go in. And I was spinning the one in by hand, and just by hand with my fingertips, it kept spinning and spinning and spinning. And when I spun it back out, I realized there was aluminum from the case. It had been stripped out. I attempted to go ahead and drill that out, put a Healy coil in. That didn't work. I then took it up to Ride on Moto. They were gonna put a thread cert in, but it was so jacked up. That wouldn't work. So I did a temporary fix to get through the Budds Creek race, which held. And I'll explain what that is when I show it here in just a few minutes. But now we're gonna do a more permanent fix on it, so it's basically like back to brand new. So the first thing I need to do is get the skid plate off, get all the oil drained out of it, and then clean some stuff up, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. And then tomorrow, I'm taking it to another guy's shop to get the actual work done to it. So let's get to work. All right, so the screw that is stripped out, or not the screw, but at least where the screw goes in, that's stripped out, is this one right here. This is where the oil filter is. We're gonna go ahead and pull these two off, and I'll show you what's inside here once I drain out the rest of the oil. All right, so if we take a look at what I was talking about here, you can see I've got a Healy coil in here, which normally I would probably be okay with, but there's a thin layer of epoxy holding that in. What happened was this bolt stripped out. And I think I said this, I attempted to tap it, put a Healy coil in, it didn't work, thread cert didn't work. So I attempted to pack this full of epoxy and then thread that. That didn't work, so just to get through the race, we've got an epoxy Healy coil going on here, but this is not a permanent fix. Now, if we take a look at this, you can see it's a part of the left side engine case. I do have access to a left side engine case if I want it, but it means I would have to disassemble the entire engine. So basically the next best thing, or just as good, is to take this to someone who can TIG weld aluminum. We're basically gonna fill this hole entirely back up, and then we will re-drill and re-tap it, making it as good as new. Now, basically my job this evening is get this Healy coil out, clean up this epoxy as good as I can, and then start to, take some of the electronics and stuff off so we don't short anything off when I take it over to this guy's place tomorrow to TIG weld that hole back shut, and then we should have the motor back to new. But let me get to cleaning this mess up I made. Okay, so as I expected, that Healy coil pulled out way easier than it should have, and I went ahead and drilled out and kind of cleaned up where all the rest of that epoxy was. Fortunately, this did hold up during the Budds Creek race. There was no water in the oil, and I could tell the O-ring that goes around here had not failed. For those of you unfamiliar with what a Healy coil is, this is a Healy coil. You can tell this was all stretched apart because it wasn't holding very well, and I just pulled on it to pull it out of there. It's basically a metal, I hate to call it a spring because it's not, but it replaces the threads. Like this bolt right here threads right into it. Normally what happens is you drill the hole out a little bit bigger and then you re-thread it, and this goes in and this becomes your threads. And I usually use some Loctite on it when I put it in, and it's basically a permanent fix. Problem was I didn't have enough metal in this case, so it was just being held in by epoxy, which is not a good idea. So anyway, I'm basically done working on the bike tonight. I'm gonna throw it back up on the stand. Tomorrow I'll load it up on my truck, take it down to Edinburgh to the guy that does aluminum welding, and we'll hopefully have this thing fixed by tomorrow evening. All right, so I took the bike down to Edinburgh this morning, met up with a guy named Eric, came highly recommended for a TIG welding this aluminum motor. Did an excellent job on it. I'm gonna show you his work and then show you the work I have left to do. All right, so if you guys remember, there used to be a hole right here. That is gone. That was what was TIG welded shut. Obviously, we still have the hole up here. So now what I need to do, he's got this all flush. I mean, he did an excellent job on it. I need to put the cap back on it so I can line everything up, and then I'm gonna have to re-drill and re-tap new threads into the case there, and then we should be all good to go. All right, you can see I've got the cap back on here. This is just kind of like snugged down. So this is gonna give me the exact spot I need to drill. So I'll go grab the drill bit and we'll get this drilled out, re-tapped, and then see if everything goes back together the way it should. All right, so you can see I've got the hole drilled. Now what I did to check the depth is obviously I haven't threaded it yet, and that hole's gonna be smaller than the bolt that goes in there, but I've got a whole thing of KTM bolts. This one is a smaller diameter circumference bolt, but the same length. And once it went down, flush down in there, I knew I'd gone deep enough drilling the hole. So now I'm gonna get out the tap kit, tap those threads back in there, and go on from there. Might be able to see them on camera. You can see we got the threads tapped out there, and if I go in, the bolt threads right in there now. So we're gonna put the put a fresh oil filter back in, and get this cap back on, fill up the crankcase with some oil, and see if everything holds. Got the bike all back together, everything hooked back up, a freshly oiled air filter in the air box. Now I'm gonna fire this thing up and see if it leaks any oil. Saw some crap burning off. That's just parts cleaner, WD-40, a little bit of oil I spilled earlier. Most of it's burnt off at this point. All right, so just took the bike out for a quick spin. Everything seems to be running okay on it. I just checked down there where we welded that piece up, and there's nothing leaking around where the oil filter goes in, where that O-ring seals up. Everything seems to be sealing just fine. I'm feeling a little cold, which is probably why I'm bumbling my words right now. But anyway, just a little bit different type of back in the garage video today. Obviously, I didn't show the welding. It's kind of hard to film that. And anyway, big thank you to Eric for welding that back up. Really appreciate that. And the bike's basically ready to go race this upcoming Saturday or Sunday. I believe it's on Sunday. But I do have one more thing I want to do to the bike. Not maintenance-wise, but we'll just call it a KTM power part that I'm going to bolt on. So watch for that video later on. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider hitting that subscribe button, because if you like motorcycles, well, this is the place to be. If you have any questions about, what we did here, why we did this, or just any questions about this bike in general, obviously ask those down in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. And as always, I'll talk to you again soon.